Today on the podcast, we're talking about cybersecurity, how to protect your credit, and other things you can do to keep your money safe online.
Welcome to the Military Money Manual Podcast, where every episode is all about achieving financial independence in the military faster than before. We believe personal finance shouldn't be boring or intimidating. Building wealth can be simple, and financial freedom is the ultimate financial goal. Now, here's your hosts, Spencer and Jamie.
Hey everyone, Spencer Reese here from militarymoneymanual.com. Joined in person on another episode by my good friend Jamie, back in Hawaii, recording in person. And today we're talking about cybersecurity and what you can do to protect your money, your accounts, your family, your credit, and important things online. So these are just some best practices, things that we've picked up over the years. And especially on the credit side, we'll get into some of the special advantages that active duty have when it comes to protecting credit. Jamie, I don't know if you want to tell some of the identity theft stories that I got
a few.
Yeah, that you've been through. I've been fortunate in that I don't think I've ever had too much identity theft. I had my card stolen a few times, where I don't know how they get them, but they do somehow. But yeah, we'll kick it off. So, and just remember, we're not cybersecurity experts, but these are the things that have worked for us, and hopefully if you implement them, they can work for you too.
The first thing is two-factor authenticator on everything.
Yeah.
As much as you can. Yep. And, whether it's Microsoft or Google Authenticator app is better than a text message.
I think Apple has one too,
Oh,
built
they?
in. Yeah. I think Apple has one built in now too. They're like KeyPass. What's their little thing called?
Keychain? Yeah.
But yeah, two-factor is a must on everything. As much as you can, you want to avoid, like Jamie said, SMS or text message two-factor. It's much more secure to do the Authenticator apps that generate a random 6-digit code every 30 seconds. And because SIMs can be stolen, there's a thing called SIM spoofing.
Duplicate it.
You can duplicate it.
It looks normal on your phone.
Yep.
It comes through normally, but especially for military people where you might not have your phone at work or you might not be able to check it immediately. It might be 5 or 6 hours by the time you see a message and you're like, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then your account's empty. So two-factor authenticator is helpful. And the other thing is you got to talk about all these with your family, your spouse, your kids, your parents as they age. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that we'll get, especially elderly, of, hey, we're calling from the bank and we just need you to confirm your password or something like that. So.
Yep. Noticing, anytime you get any kind of those calls, it's thanks, hang up, call the bank back on a number that you get off of a website that you trust or an app that you trust. And then confirm that, in fact, that they were not trying to contact you to steal your login details. The other thing with the SIM spoofing, Jamie, I think every carrier now is legally required to provide some kind of service that prevents your SIM from being swapped to another, because of eSIMs. Now it's a lot easier from being swapped from one phone to the other. So like on Google Fi, for instance, which I use and I highly recommend, especially if you're traveling internationally or you're stationed overseas, because you can still get your normal US phone number, your text messages. You can keep your phone number. It's a great service. It's pretty affordable. But on Google Fi, you can log into the security settings on a desktop computer or a laptop, and you can enable SIM block, essentially, and just adds another step that you have to do before moving the SIM from one phone to another to help stop SIM swapping.
Yeah, it's a good point because almost all of these tips we're talking about are not going to keep a malign state actor or a professional criminal out of your stuff. Yeah. Like they will get in if they really want to. This is going to make it less convenient for the average amateur hacker or someone that kind of stumbles upon your information on the dark web or whatever. Like, it's not going to be a cure-all, but it will make it harder and prevent a lot of the easy kills.
Exactly. It's going to it's going to make you a hardened target, right? Yep. And they're going to move on to someone else
that's not.
That's a lot easier. The other thing is a password manager. Google has one, Apple has one, Microsoft
You're talking
has one.
About like a notebook like my grandma used to have on their counter.
So honestly, for your core password, especially for an elderly person who isn't going to be traveling with, writing down the one password that you have to remember, right? Which is usually your core email account.
Get you into Google.
Yeah, get you into Google or get you into Apple. But whatever your core email account is, that's the one password that you want to have memorized. Other than that, though, for every other service, you want to use a completely random, strong password. Apple has a service where it'll automatically generate, same thing on Google, on Android. Yep. Microsoft, if you're using their browser, they'll generate a random password for you. Store it into your password manager. And I just use the default Chrome one. It's now baked into Google. It's very secure. It's part of your Google account. You can use the Microsoft one. You can use the Apple one. It doesn't matter. But and there's paid ones you can use too. You don't have to use the paid one. The free ones do almost everything that the paid ones can do at this point. And what that allows you to do is you have to assume that every single password that you have will be leaked one day. I get these alerts almost daily from the different dark web monitoring services. And they're like, oh, this account was compromised. Oh, this account was compromised. Oh, this account was compromised. But if you're using a strong random password, a different one for every single account, when one password is compromised, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they only get that one password instead of the one that opens up all your banks and all your credit cards and all your utility bills and everything. So
and when you add the strong random password plus the two-factor authentication, especially on any account that's got money in it or cryptocurrency or investment options or any of your core accounts, like for me, it might be my Gmail account, then that, again, just makes you a much harder target, and it's going to slow down anybody who's trying to gain access to those accounts.
Spencer, I want to talk a little bit about credit freezes. So that's something that comes up a lot, and it's honestly, it's really simple to do. So I'm just going to share a little bit about the experience and how to do that, and then people can choose if they want to do it or not. There's 3 different credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and each of them have a website or an app where you can freeze your credit, which means that anyone trying to pull your credit report for the purpose of a loan, whether it's a new account with the cable company or the internet company, a new cell phone line, a new credit card, all these things that run your credit for, a loan at CarMax or whatever, anything where they're checking your credit, it won't let them do it as long as that freeze is there.
Right.
And it's very easy to put in place. It takes 5 minutes or less, probably more like 2 or 3 minutes per bureau, especially once you have your account open. You log in, you freeze it. And then if I want to apply for a new line of credit, all I do is I log in and I hit thaw. And so each of them, you can easily thaw it or temporarily remove the freeze for 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is. And if you're not sure which company they're going to pull your credit from, then you just thaw or unfreeze all 3 bureaus for the 24 hours. Once you get your new account approved, then you can refreeze them. It's not a big deal at all, and it's very, very quick. Anything to add on the credit freeze?
No, it's something that I've done recently. Now, when I was deep into the military credit cards game, we'll talk about this in a second, but I put an active duty freeze on my account, and I actually really regretted it.
Yeah.
And so if you are opening up a credit card like every month, this might be something that you don't want to do, especially if you check your credit report, and you can check your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com is the official U.S. government sponsored website. And since COVID, they're still doing it where you can check your credit report for free. I think it updates every week from all 3 bureaus.
Yep.
I think annually is about right. Get in there, log in, make sure all your information's up to date, make sure. And then if you see like weird random accounts and you're like, what is this? Follow up, ask the questions, make sure that someone hasn't been going out there and opening accounts in your name. That's the critical thing to do, is just keep an eye on it. The credit system in the United States is so opaque and is so, like, nobody teaches you this stuff in school. But just knowing that you have the power, they have to legally allow you to do the freezes. You don't have to pay for it. And that's the thing that they're going to try to do when you log into the website, is there's always upsells, and they're always trying to sell you these credit monitoring services. All of those services are offered 100% free through banks, through credit cards, through all these apps. You don't need to pay for a credit monitoring service.
Yeah. And then even if it's like, upgrade for your score, the scores are different, whether if you have Citi, Amex, Chase, all of them offer a way to see your score, but each bureau also has a different way of scoring. It's kind of like gee whiz, like, here's my score. Even Credit Karma, had a free score thing for a long time, but it was a different algorithm and calculation method. But the big takeaway is credit freeze is very easy to do. No accounts can get opened while you have that freeze in place. All you have to do is log in real quickly, and you can Google, Experian credit freeze or TransUnion credit freeze. Log in, hit the unfreeze or the thaw button. It's very simple to do. The active duty alert that you mentioned is a little more complicated. And what this is designed for is it's actually an FTC program that makes it harder for someone to open a new account in your name, because you force the business to verify your identity before issuing a new credit. So they can still do it. They just have to comply with the instructions that you provide, which in most cases is, I'm active duty military, please contact me at this number to verify this new line. So if you're deployed on a ship for 6 months and you want to open a new line of credit or a new credit card, they won't be able to call your cell phone very easily, so you'll have no way to do that.
I put an active duty alert on my credit when I was stationed in Abu Dhabi. And I regretted it because every time I went to open up an American Express card, it would say, well, we have to, there's a security freeze on your account. So we have to double check it and review it. And then the next morning I would wake up to, missed calls from American Express because they were calling me trying to verify my identity so they can open the account, which then meant I had to call them back and wait until, the right customer service department was open.
And hours.
So for the right person, especially if you're not opening up a lot of credit cards and maybe you're not playing the military credit card game, then an active duty alert is a great option. I mean, I don't understand why there isn't a requirement for every consumer that they have to verify your identity before they open up an account in your name. Yeah. I mean, that's insane.
Here's my name and my social. Yes, you must be who you're saying you are.
Exactly.
Because that information is not leaked by OPM or...
Your password cannot be your social security number, right? It's a publicly available piece of information.
One time I got a new line. This was a few years back at T-Mobile, and I had an active duty alert at the time. Those last for 1 year. You can place it with any of the 3 bureaus, and then it will apply to all 3. But during that 1 year window, we added a new cell phone or switched back to T-Mobile. I forget what it is. And so the representative, the credit check didn't pass. So I'm on the phone with them and she's explaining, oh, this is why it doesn't pass. So then I'm on the phone with them on my current cell phone. The same representative puts me on hold, calls me from the same number to my same number. And it's like, hi, is this? Yeah, I'm like, yes, it's me. Are you trying to open a line at T-Mobile? It's like, yes, I'm on the other line with you right now trying to open a line. It's like...
They followed the procedure.
They did. They followed the procedure. They verified, but it was just a little bit of a pain in the butt. Whereas the freeze is easy. I'm in control of it.
Yep.
And I can turn it on and off very easily. The active duty alert is a little bit more of a pain in the butt. But if you're not using any credit or anything like that, then maybe it's right for some people.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to the show.
Hey, Spencer, I got a cousin that just graduated from high school, and they're about to start basic training in a few months. Any ideas on a gift I should get him?
Yep, sure do, Jamie. The Military Money Manual, A Practical Guide to Financial Freedom, is a concise, easy to read, and practical guide to your military money. It's the book that I wish someone had handed me on my first day in the military. In the book, I explain the exact money tactics and investing strategies that can enable you to achieve financial independence while serving in the U.S. military. It's available on Amazon, Audible, and my website. It's hardcover, paperback, ebook, Kindle, and audiobook. You can get a special discount using promo code podcast on my website, shop.militarymoneymanual.com.
Spencer, what about a VPN? A lot of times people talk about how VPNs can protect your cybersecurity. Is that something you've used? I've never really been big into that.
I'm so glad you asked that question, Jamie, because today's podcast is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Yeah. No, you don't need a VPN. Now, okay, let me say this. You don't need a VPN if you're stationed in certain countries that maybe don't have as much freedom of expression as the United States does. Maybe it makes sense that you want to obfuscate, what you're doing on the internet, or maybe you want to access, Netflix movies that aren't available in your host nation, but they're available back in the United States, right? So for that, yes, sure. But for a security purpose, I don't really see the advantage of a VPN. The big push in the last couple of years of almost every single website is using HTTPS, secure HTTP, means that like when you see the little lock, in the corner of your browser screen, almost every single website in the world is using a secure service now. And all the promises of a VPN, if you're on a secure website, your traffic is encrypted between you and that website. So
that's another important thing to look for, though. If you're opening a bank account and it doesn't have that lock up there, it's not a secure HTTPS website, then you probably don't want that bank.
Most of the browsers will throw so many warnings and won't even show you the website and you can run into this all the time with Air Force websites, right? Where the DoD keys aren't published for whatever reason.
So they can't trust it. Yeah.
and so the browser doesn't trust it. The worst is when you're like on a government computer and it still doesn't work. But those are some of the things that, Jamie, I think the password manager, using a strong random password for every single website, because you just have to assume that passwords are going to be leaked. It's an inevitability. So what you want to do is make sure that when that password is eventually leaked, only that site is the one that's compromised. And if it's a very important site, you've set up two-factor authentication, usually with one of the Authenticator apps, either from Google or Apple or Microsoft, and that you use that two-factor authentication to further slow down or disable a hacker who's trying to get access to your account. Freezing your credit reports, In fact, Jamie, since this call started, I logged in to Equifax and I froze my credit because that was the last place that I hadn't froze my credit report. So that's how easy it was. I was able to do it just on my phone while you were talking in the last couple of minutes here. And then active duty freezes, I'm not going to say they're not recommended, but I just be careful with them. They last for, is it a year?
1 year.
1 year. Yep. And then you can put another one on it. If you're going like on a remote tour or you're going to be deployed, it actually might be a really great idea to put an active duty alert on there. Just realize that like if your spouse is back home, they're trying to do something, in your name, or if you're trying to open up a credit card and one of the, annual fee waived credit cards that we talk about so much on this show, the active duty fraud alert is going to slow that process down because they have to verify your identity before they issue you.
Yeah, I just logged into Experian while you were talking. So it was like 90 seconds and I was able to like pretend to thaw my credit. It is frozen still, so don't try to hack me.
I won't.
Don't come at me, bro. But I've had so many issues where people try to open bank accounts in my name, different credit card things. I've had authorized user accounts that I forgot about and, caught it when I was a teenager or whatever, and checking my annual credit report. I tend to do it quarterly. When they allowed each one a year, I do one of the 3 bureaus each quarter, and then I'd be able to keep on top of it to make sure. But, looking for new accounts, staying on top of it. And then even with Chrome, I'm sure your phone does the same thing, but it alerts me like this password has been found online. Yes. Or this password has been used on multiple accounts.
Yep.
We recommend you change this password. There's all kinds of things out there trying to protect you. Take the time when you can to do due diligence there to protect your stuff, because I promise you the 5 minutes or less it will take to change your password when it's compromised is way better than dealing with the actual identity theft recovery. Yes. And I've tried paid, I've done credit monitoring with the hacks, or I've tried paid things where it's not LifeLock. I forget the one that Dave Ramsey does where it's like you pay them and they'll handle all the identity theft stuff.
Yep.
It wasn't any good. I still had to do basically all the work.
Yep.
But you're going to have to spend a lot of time if your identity is stolen or your credit is hacked. Just take the time now to protect your stuff, and it'll make your life easier for you in the future.
And again, this isn't about making it impossible. It's just about becoming a hardened target and just slowing down and making yourself, you're not a target of opportunity. You're not an easy target. And so hackers and criminals are lazy, and they'll move on to someone else who hasn't enabled two-factor authentication or has reused the same password across their Vanguard account and their Schwab account and their USA account and their Gmail account. And that's the exact target that they want to hit, because they're going to be able to get in there and clear you out before you realize what's happening.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.